Hello and welcome back to the podcast. So I'm really excited today. We have on none other than Denise Brady from Teamworks Recruitment. I came across Teamworks many moons ago when I was in store management, and I found them an absolute pleasure to deal with. They put me in some amazing roles at retailers, and it's fantastic to see the journey come back around again and re-engage and have these great conversations with Denise, because I'm working with retailers now, and Denise is filled with so much knowledge around the recruitment, retention, and talent management of individuals in the retail sector. And she has so many years experience. But I'm going to get Denise maybe to just tell us a little bit about Teamworks, a little bit about herself, and we'll delve in to asking her loads of great questions around recruitment. So thanks for coming on, Denise.
Good to see you, Louise. Thank you for inviting me on. I just feel old after hearing all of that, but what a lovely intro. Oh, goodness me. Yeah, just thinking back over the years. I mean, I set up Teamworks in 2002. So we've been around a long time. And my career, I suppose, I started off in PR and fashion PR, and I'd always been in fashion or something to do with fashion. And I went to a recruitment agency because I was looking for a new job. And the recruitment agency at the time was called Star Selection. And Alana, who ran Star Selection, when I was talking to her, said to me, "Gosh, I'm looking to get somebody on board to work with me, Denise. I'm just setting up in Ireland. Would you ever think of recruitment?" And I was that girl in school who always did people's CVs for them. I loved looking at the time at the jobs in newspapers and that as well. And yeah, so I was kind of inclined that way. I think it was meant to be from the beginning. So I joined Star Selection. I was there for a couple of years, and then I got the opportunity to set up Teamworks myself, which was in 2002. And yeah, so that was over 20 something years ago. I don't put the time on it anymore. I just say 20 plus years ago. And Louise, we've been so lucky over the years. I mean, we're specialists in the retail sector. So what we do is we add value to retailers' businesses by putting the right people in the right roles. So we would deal across all sectors of retail. So your fashion, your grocery, your DIY, etc. And we would work with anybody from your independent retailers, so maybe with three, four, five staff members, to your big multinationals, the likes of maybe your Woodies, your Yisk, your Musgraves, etc. A lot of those big brands and big names that you can think of. Um, and we work with them as a talent partner. So we wouldn't see ourselves as an agency because firstly, we only deal in permanent staff, but also we're very much about integration and integrating ourselves with the HR divisions to make their life a bit easier. HR departments within these companies, they're so busy. So what we do is we go and work really, really closely with them to get them the best people and add value to their business. So that just tells you a little bit about us. And, we've always stayed niche. I never wanted to have a huge, big agency that had 20 something people in it. We always wanted to stay specialist in our industry. So, we've gone from where there's been two of us to eight of us. And yeah, I think that's where we're going to stay.
Yeah, I think what's very unique about what you do, Denise, is I think for retailers, you really figure out the personality of their brands and
Yeah.
the personality of the culture of that organization, and even the candidates that are coming in. You're very clear and concise about what that culture looks like,
Yeah.
and whether they fit into that culture, and whether that aligns with them. And I think it's probably, I think, one of the most unique things a teamwork does at the moment in the industry, because it is a journey and you're with the candidate throughout the way. And I can say that as a candidate, that I was coached and supported the whole way up until I got the role, and even afterwards
Yeah.
supported. So I think that makes you quite special.
Yeah. And I think that's
Yeah.
important what you're saying from a candidate side is,
Mm,
I mean, firstly, for a company,
yeah.
we have to look at, I always say, all the things that aren't on the job spec. Job specs are great from a skill set point of view. And of course,
Mm,
candidates have to align with the job spec.
yeah.
But the company culture, the company values, they're what keep people in a role. And they're what will retain people in jobs long term. So for me, that's really, really important that I get to know the retailers, what they stand for, what their community is, what works well in their business. And that's what it is that adds value to them.
Yeah, so obviously we're talking about the topic of candidates, which leads me into one of my first questions, which
Mm,
is there is obviously at the moment, Denise, and me and you've had loads of different chats about this. It is a very it's an employees marketplace at the moment. I think it's the lowest employment rate than it's been in a very long time.
yeah, yeah.
So retailers, how can they, because some of them are going to be listening to this podcast,
Mm.
how can they attract candidates into their workplace and get the right ones? How do they go about
Yeah.
attracting that talent? Because it's becoming a real challenge at the moment.
It is. And it
Mm,
has been for many years. I mean, really, since we've come back after COVID, retail has changed. Consumer behaviors have changed, but retail has also changed. And the way retailers attract candidates and look for talent needs to change alongside that. So over the past couple of years, there's a couple of key areas that I've seen retailers
mm,
focus on a little bit more, which I think are so key. The first one is probably their employer branding, because if you don't have a unique selling point as a retailer, and if you aren't clear about what that is, you're going to be recruiting from the same pool as your competitor next door. So I'd say from the very beginning, look at what your employer branding is as a retailer and look at what your unique selling point is. So is there something out there that retailers that can offer that maybe their competitor down the road isn't offering? So that's something that I'm noticing that retailers are doing more. And also flexibility. Like flexibility wasn't an option years ago in the retail sector, but retailers now know they have to offer some flexibility, be that to working parents, be that to people who only want to do 3 days a week. Because again, post-COVID, what we saw is retail talent exiting the market. A lot of your other companies out there, they realized how service orientated, how sales orientated people working within the retail sector were. So they have now offered them opportunities that people within retail would never have been offered before. That could be anything from getting into recruitment, getting into sales roles where they don't have to maybe work weekends, they don't have to work late nights, etc. So it's key that retailers are looking at what their own selling points are and tailoring that to the market.
yeah, I think that's a really valid point. We retailers probably need to change then. And
Yeah,
it isn't obviously always a salary because we've seen huge, obviously the increases in minimum wage have gone up,
yeah,
Denise.
yeah.
And a lot of the clients that I'm working with, you know, uh, they're coming back to me and they're saying, Louise, we have to have less staff on the floor now because of the wage increase has gone up. And that obviously has a knock-on effect. So some of the things you're talking about, I suppose I'll highlight something I actually seen about a year ago on LinkedIn, Marks and Spencers in the
Yes,
UK.
they're a
Uh,
great
I
example.
just thought it was a fantastic
Yeah,
example, Denise. We might just share it to the listeners
yeah,
that they were actually doing a 4 day working week for their store managers.
yeah,
And I just thought, wow, this is really retail evolving and
yeah.
having a 4 day working week. And what a way to lead it. Because I'm
And the
sure,
PR,
yeah,
Louise, that they
yeah,
got out of that was phenomenal.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
not even that all their managers were working in that way,
yeah,
but again, they were doing something different.
yeah,
They were offering a little bit of flexibility.
yeah.
They were moving with the times in line with other industries. And I think
Mm,
sometimes as a retail community, and because of the nature of business that retail is, we find it more difficult to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Having that change piece and
Having that
seeing the
change.
benefit of it. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's testing it out.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that, uh, we can experiment, we can try different things in the retail space, and we can get that feedback because it's in real time and it's on the
Yeah.
shop floor. Is it working for me? Is it not?
Yeah.
But
And
I think,
it's not always
mm,
salary. A lot of the
yes,
time retailers, they tend to think that they
mm,
have to offer no more money. But
yes,
that's not necessarily what it's about. Like the
yes,
SSIA did a really, really interesting
yeah,
survey there recently. And it was something like 41% of people said that
yeah,
they would quit their job if
yeah,
the company that they worked with didn't have values similar to them. So it's looking
yeah.
outside the box a little bit, or
Love
it's
that.
offering things like
Mm,
maybe mental health support initiatives, because again, we know
yeah,
retail, it's a really tough sector to be working in.
yeah.
So extra holidays. One of
Mm,
my clients, they offer now 25 days holidays, which is on top of your bank holidays, etc., which is unheard of within the retail sector. But again, it's really making them stand out from other people. So I think, again, we need to change the way we're thinking. It doesn't need to be based around salary. It's usually about benefits package, or
mm.
other add-ons that you can add alongside a competitive salary.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I love the way you've highlighted that, Denise, because I actually was having a conversation with a retailer yesterday,
Yeah,
and the same thing came up. They were looking to, again, sometimes throwing money at it,
yeah,
because they were worried that they were shortening the hours, that they were going to just give everyone a pay increase and everything was going to be easier. And I think what you said there, looking at, some initiatives around that. I know, for example, if we look at Woody's as a brand, they have a really lovely community-based app for their stores,
yeah.
whereby if you're working in Woody's, and say, for example, I seen you do an amazing display, I could take a picture of it and I could post that on the community group they have. And then if someone is working in a different county, maybe it's a Dublin store and you're based in a Cork store, they can go, "Hey, Denise, that was great merchandise in there. I loved the way you done the stock." And you're
Brilliant.
championing each other, in a peer setting. You know what I mean? So it's that
And it's
collective.
also about building that community piece.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
key. And
Yeah.
Woody's have
Yeah.
been amazing
They're a great
in
example.
in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
valuing their employees.
Yes.
They've won a lot of
Mm,
awards around Great Place to Work for
yeah.
DEI, Great Place to Work for women, etc. And
Yeah.
it's because they offer flexibility in
Yeah.
terms of working hours, in terms of holidays, even in terms of how they get paid. They can have a
Yeah.
choice of whether they want to get paid weekly, monthly, different things like that. So it's giving control, I suppose, and it's
Yes.
enabling their managers, their assistant managers, their team leads, their staff
Mm,
to make their own decisions that are in line with their life choices and their own values. So again, it's
mm,
aligning that with them as an employer, and that's what
mm,
any employee is now looking for. I've seen employees, Louise, not take a job with an amazing offer, with an amazing salary, etc.,
mm,
because their values aren't in line with what it is they're looking for. And that's becoming more and more prevalent all the time, especially with the younger generation. They don't stay around. If
mm,
something isn't right, they don't wait because they know there's so many other opportunities. So for us as a retail community, I think it's really important that we do change and we make those changes quickly to retain, from a retention piece, to
mm.
retain the employees that we have on board. And I think that's something we need to talk about as well, because I think that retention piece is key. And yes, I work as a recruitment partner, but I also talk to my clients
Mm.
about retention as well as recruitment.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think from the values piece, what you're saying as well, I see sometimes, and I'm really honest in this, Denise, that do our values live on the wall on a poster?
Yeah.
or how do they show up in the
Yeah.
day-to-day operations of the store? So, are we doing our team huddles, and we're championing certain people that are, really owning, leading, it could be, or really owning accountability, if it's, if that's something to them. Are
Yeah.
they accountable? They don't blame others if they make a mistake. Are we really highlighting the behaviors and attitudes we want to see through those values
Yeah.
in how we actually lead our teams in a day-to-day? So that could be your floor walks, it could be your team huddles, it could be your store visits if you're an area manager, it could be your audits if you're
Yeah.
an L&D professional, whatever that might be. But it's making it tangible. I used to, and I think the example you've given, Woodies, is a way where they've made it tangible for people to understand their culture in a way
Yeah.
where they're living and breathing it through their actions.
Yeah.
The whole learning space, and I think for retailers for a while, I think there is a real shift in the market where they're realizing that by investing in their people more, through training, Denise, that um they will get they will retain the employee more, the employee will feel invested in, they'll want
Yeah.
to stay longer,
Yeah.
because their employer might be subsidizing that college degree. I was working with a pharmacy chain, and they put some of their supervisors on a managerial program
Mm.
through the colleges, and they got, a bit of a rebate on that, and they support them through that journey. So there's, you talked about that survey.
Mm.
The two of
Mm.
us looked at it on LinkedIn, and you actually done a great post on it. So check out Denise Brady's post on LinkedIn. She posted it there recently.
Mm.
And it was around, I suppose, if we invest in people in the workplace, that they will stay longer. Now,
Mm.
there's a bit of an argument with that, and I'm gonna put this to you, okay?
Sure.
That sometimes when you speak to the retailers, they say, but Louise, there's a high turnover. So I'm
Yes.
worried if I invest in training, and they leave, and there's always this chicken and egg scenario
Yeah.
regarding if we don't train them, though, what are we having our customers
Yeah.
walking into? And I think
Yeah.
that's probably another one. Do you see much of that in retail, where
Yeah.
candidates, from your perspective, if we're trying to bring in certain senior people or middle management roles, that they really want something that's focused around upskilling in the
Yeah.
workplace? Do you see
Yeah.
much of that, or?
Yeah, and I think just to go back to what you said there, I think retailers
Mm,
need to be really, really
mm,
clear on what their training programs are. Take the likes of your Aldi Lidl. I talk to Aldi or Lidl managers. Yes, they might want to leave their business because of the hours that they're working or something like that. But when we go to talk about their progression and the training from within the business, they can tell me within the next 3 years how their progression looks, what their salary increases are going to be, what the opportunities are. You put that alongside a manager from another retailer who hasn't outlined how clear the career path is. And that's where there's a mismatch. It's one thing saying that you're going to train your people, which is fantastic, but it needs to be clear how that looks. So I think retailers need to take ownership of that career path. And when you set that out, that will retain people. That
yeah,
will keep
yeah.
them on board with you. And
Mm,
yes, I do understand that if you invest in somebody and they're very
mm,
good, there's the opportunity, there's the chance that they may go
mm.
elsewhere. But that's life, unfortunately, and that's
Yeah,
the way it is across all
yeah.
businesses. So
Mm,
again, if you're clear with them as to how their progression is, they may well not. And it comes down to communication as well, Louise, and you know this from your own training too.
yeah.
Retailers are very, very busy and they're very hands-on and they don't always take the time out to pause, to speak to the managers within the business and to train them in that leadership level. Like there's definitely a lack of talent at that mid-level within retail. And I think we need to address that because there's a gap. You know, you have your senior managers up here, you have your more junior teams, but there's a gap at that middle management level. And I think we need to invest more as a community in leadership. So that's passed down and we're looking at leaders of the future. I think that's key.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on something really, really great there, Denise, with retention, that succession planning is a core part of that retention
Yes.
piece. Yeah, and that succession plan and that career roadmap. Um, you gave a great example there of retailers that I suppose the likes of the Lidls and all of those, how the managers know that. Do you
Yeah.
come across that often, Denise, that the
Yeah.
managers maybe they're leaving because they don't have that clarity around where the progression is and they feel maybe that they're stagnant in their progression?
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the key reasons why people do leave their jobs is
Mm,
because they don't see if somebody is strong and they're good at what they do and they're
mm,
ambitious, they're naturally going to want to move to the next level. Now,
yeah.
within retail, you also get to a point, I think, where I see a lot of people who come to that management level that they decide they want to move off the shop floor. Therein can lie a challenge for a retailer who maybe
Yeah.
doesn't have a head office based in Ireland or they can't offer them an alternative. So it's not always the case. But again, I remember to go back to Woody's and speaking to somebody senior leadership level in there and them saying to me, Denise, if we don't progress somebody within 3 years within our business and they decide they want to make the move, it's only fair because it's up to us to continue to build their career and we should be able to do that for them within 2 to 3 years. Now, I know they're a larger retailer, so they have the opportunity to do that. It's more difficult for an independent or for a small retailer to progress somebody's career. But realistically, nowadays, Louise, if you get 2 or 3 years at management level out of somebody, you're not doing too bad.
Yeah, definitely. And it is that kind of industry. And I think going back to what you said there, I think that you can still, even with the smaller retailers, give them, I suppose, a bit of a roadmap in a way. And if there isn't a head office, I've seen some retailers do this, they would maybe get them involved in innovation strategies,
Yeah,
or they might get them involved in other areas of the business maybe they have an interest in. So maybe they get
yeah,
them more involved in the P&L accounts of that
yeah.
store that maybe they wouldn't have been as involved in that aspect, or they could be getting involved in buying. And it's giving them new skills, and it goes back to training again and learning a little bit on that. Is there another way around this? And I think when we don't check in regularly and when everything is hunky dory and we think, okay, it's all hunky dory, if there's a problem, I'm sure they'll say it to me. I think that's sometimes where I see the managers kind of jump ship a little bit because they feel, do they have my best interests at heart? Are
Yeah,
they looking out for me and my progression? So I think it's quite important. And you touched on communication a few times in this, Denise, and clarity. But it's having those regular conversations with the store managers, area managers on where they're at in their development. And if that's a monthly check-in or a bi-monthly check-in or quarterly, whatever that looks like, that it's not just being brought up at an annual appraisal yearly
it's
or
not being
twice a
brought
year.
up when somebody's handing in their notice
Exactly.
because that
Yeah,
is too late. You know,
exactly.
again, I
Mm,
see it all the time. Somebody goes to leave a job, but there's a counter offer there. That's the norm now. Years ago, it
yeah.
used to happen the odd time. Now it happens all the time. If somebody is talking to you about leaving,
Mm,
you're too late. You've missed something. And I'm speaking as an employer and a business owner as
yeah.
you know, those conversations need to be had regularly. I also think we need to look at who the leaders are within our own
Yeah.
business to see
Mm,
what standards do they have? How are they communicating to the rest of the
mm,
team? Another reason I see a lot of people leave their jobs within retail is because of the store manager. Maybe the
mm,
store manager's been there for 10 or 15 years. They're not willing
mm,
to change. They're not willing to hand
yeah.
anything over, etc. So again, I think it's important that we're looking at who the leaders are within our business.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great one. And I was working with a retailer before, and there was a KPI metric with the HR teams around retention
Yeah.
and number of years in the business across those stores for those people that left, and where that turnover. And I think it's having exit interviews as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
impartial. So people that maybe do, if it is that manager, that whoever is doing those exit interviews, that it's not being conducted on site. It's conducted by somebody maybe in a head office that's maybe doesn't have a lot of interaction with them, so they can maybe have a really honest conversation. And
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in exit interviews, because it's how do we learn
Yeah.
from this person leaving the business
Yeah.
to actually maybe for the next person that we onboard into our business, how are we going to retain them,
Yeah.
in a different way, so if they're leaving over something, okay, look, we're not going to get them back, but how are we going to make it a better experience for the next person that comes in? And I think
Yeah.
those probably need to happen more often. I haven't seen them. Some companies are really great, some have it in place, but they're just not proactive in that space.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
that feedback is key. And whether,
Yeah.
like, I even know as a recruiter, a
Yeah.
recruitment partner in that as well, if anybody leaves that I have placed in a role, might be 6 months later, might be 12 months, might be 3 years later, whatever, I will always
Yeah.
pick up the phone and find out why it is they're leaving. And I'll
Mm.
convey that back to the retailer. Now, whether they
Yeah.
do what they need to do with that information, that's entirely
Yeah.
up to them. But I think we can learn so much from our employees. We can also sell our business so much from employees. So just in terms of employer
Yeah.
branding, your staff that you have working within your
Yeah.
business, they're your biggest advocates. And they're
Yeah.
who it is that you should be
Mm.
using to tell stories about your business, to build your brand and that, and put you out there as a great place to work or as a great employer to work with. And again, that's what the likes of Woody's and other retailers, Aldi, Lidl, etc., that's what they all do very well.
Yeah, it's and I think it's really interesting, because I think sometimes what you said there, and I think a lot of retailers could probably look at this internally that are listening to this today, Denise, because you touched on that. Every
Mhm.
person that touches your brand as a candidate for an interview, that's a potential customer for your brand.
Yeah,
So what is a lasting impression they're going to have? So
yeah,
are you getting back to them? Are you, following up? Are
yeah,
you ensuring that the communication is good there when you
yeah,
are, going through that process of
yeah,
recruiting someone, either they're working with you, Denise, or whatever that might
yeah.
be? Are they following up in a good time? Because I've seen it before. If they, and I've seen people come to me and said, they're really bad at getting back to me. I don't think I want
And
to work for
Louise,
that
that
company.
shouldn't be happening in
Yeah,
this day and age.
yeah, yeah,
For two
yeah.
reasons. Firstly, we
Mm,
have AI that can assist a little bit in terms of automated processes to ensure that
mm,
anybody who applies for a job has been responded to, etc.
yeah,
But secondly, that shouldn't
yeah.
happen. We should have slick recruitment processes that everybody gets feedback within 48 hours.
Mm,
Everybody gets responded to. So whether they get, and this is always what I say to my clients,
mm,
we're a PR tool for you. Whether or not somebody gets the job is irrelevant. I want everybody to go away with a positive image of the business. I want them to go away talking about the great experience that they had during the interview, and that maybe they'll try again at another stage, or maybe they're going to tell their friends about it, etc.
mm,
And it's up to us as a retail community to do that. And I don't see
mm.
that enough. I see
Yeah,
people being left for maybe a week or two
yeah.
without getting feedback, etc. And that can be the difference whether or not you secure good staff. It can just be
Yes.
timing. If
Mm,
I'm interviewing and take it that anybody who's interviewing are going to be interviewing for 2 or 3 roles, or maybe more.
yeah.
So if I don't have a job, whoever comes back to me first, I'm going to consider them really seriously. Whoever I have the best interview experience with, I'm going to consider them really seriously, because it's also telling me about their values as a business and how they
Yeah.
appreciate their staff, etc. So you want to stack the odds in your favor if you are recruiting people,
Mm,
and a very slick recruitment process that gives feedback and that has a
mm.
quick turnaround will secure you the best people that are out there.
Yeah, I think, and And I think that could be leveraged to grow your brand and your sales and your, exactly what you said, to be known in the industry for having a company that people actually want to work in. And I think most retail companies out there want to be known in the industry for being a great company to work in.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's not thought of when we do recruitment, because we don't put those special touches. I worked at a brand before called Rituals, and there's a
I
fantastic
think I
managing
placed you
director.
there years ago, Louise.
Yeah. And there was a fantastic woman, Penny Grieva, who
Mhm.
was the managing director, who is a dear friend of mine now. And I remember and it was the first time in a long time where you've seen a managing director across the UK and Irish market who had, maybe 70 plus stores, who would actually do an interview with a store manager because she wanted to ensure they were the right fit for the business. And
And
I
they still
remember,
do that. They still do that,
oh, it's
Louise. The MD is
fantastic.
still involved in the interview
Yes.
process at the final
I
stage.
just think it's fantastic. But what
Yeah.
was really interesting was, Denise, there was nothing about my work experience when I went on that call with her. She asked me, how do I slow down? How do I practice mindfulness? What was my work-life balance like? Because that brand
Yes.
is all about slowing down. And if you walk into any of their stores, you'll see
Yeah.
the back wall slowing down, and there's the logo and all of that. And it I was kind of going, wow, this isn't just a brand, because I researched that brand. This
Yeah.
isn't just a
Yeah.
brand that, it is putting all this fancy marketing and all these kind of slogans and stuff. This is the MD. So this is the culture piece. This is
I love
definitely a culture
it.
piece. And it was such a great example. And I remember before I started in the role, Denise, I got a box sent to my house. And it's a
Yeah.
big, big box. And it was a rituals box, and it had an assortment of products. Okay. And I opened the box, and there was a little letter on it, and it said, congratulations, Louise. We're so excited to have, and they call all of their staff heartbeats.
Yeah.
We're so excited to have you as a heartbeat in our company. And they gave me their best selling products. Now, this ticked two very crucial products for a retailer, or boxes for a
Yeah.
retailer, because
Yeah.
they got me as a customer. I tried
Yeah.
those products in the shower, I tested them
Yeah.
out,
You
the
love them.
moisturizers. And before I set foot in that store, I already knew about the products as a customer. I just thought it was a
That's
fantastic way
brilliant. And
of
do you
doing
know
it.
what else
Mm,
they've done there? Which again, I think it's an
mm,
area that retailers need to focus on to
yeah.
attract their staff, is that onboarding piece.
Yes.
Those 4 weeks from when
Mm,
somebody accepts a job offer to when they start within the
yeah.
company is
Mm,
crucial. And I cannot stress this enough. There's a
yeah.
huge difference between somebody accepting a job, not hearing from the company until the day before they start. So now what
Mm,
I say to all my clients is that I would expect them and I would ask
mm,
them to
yeah.
contact the candidate at least twice before they get started. And one of those times ideally be in person to organize for a coffee, just to have a chat through any last minute
Mm,
questions they have, any nerves that they have, etc. And that onboarding piece is so important. And that's even before they've got into the business. So again, that's
mm,
something else we can do because again, retailers know there is drop-offs along the way. Somebody can
mm,
accept a job, they can again be counter-offered, us as a recruitment partner, that's what it is. It's our job to do to keep in contact. But if the retailers are doing the recruitment themselves, they need to make sure they're keeping in contact with the candidate until they come into their store on the first day or their head office or what it may be. But that's key.
yeah. Yeah. I think again, that tells them as a business, those people going in, what they're all about. And I think you win them as a customer.
Yeah.
Every candidate that you don't hire, I would be thinking, is that a sales opportunity? Is that a way to win a customer into our business? And I think it's a fantastic way to do it. And we used to, when we bring candidates in for interviews on the shop floor, we would, give them testers. We'd have a
Yeah.
tester box, and we give them the product when they finish the interview at a store level sometimes, because we would go, okay, even if they don't get the role, because we've interviewed 5 people and for shop floor positions or for seasonal, might be Christmas temps or whatever that is at store level. They now have tried the products, and we know 50% of people that try buy. So it's like, why don't we do that? I think it's I think onboarding is definitely something, and it's something that you're really good at understanding, Denise. So definitely, if anyone is unsure how to nail that, have a chat with Denise, because she's absolutely phenomenal in that space. And
even that's where we can add value, Louise, I suppose. And my length of experience or my time in the industry has to stand for something, but we can add value to a business who is recruiting by supporting them on the journey, as they take on new teams and that as well. One other pointer that I know has come up over the years as well, if you're taking somebody on in a store environment, let them know their roster for the first month before they get started. It's something that's only simple, but if they have that and they're clear as to how their first month looks, they can get their head around it a little bit more, and they're just more comfortable starting within the business. Because I've seen too many managers get started where their roster's been all over the place for the first month. They've been moved around stores. They haven't been given a clear training plan, and it's tainted their view of the business a little bit from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a really good one, and it's a low hanging fruit. I think it's an easy one. It's a really easy one to do.
Absolutely.
We've delved into so many different areas here. But one area that I'd like to touch on is, it's 2025. It's start of the year. What are kind of trends you predict, or do you see kind of coming down the line from recruiting that maybe retailers need to be aware of? Do you feel?
So again, just going back to what we said, I think we need to look at the retention piece as well as recruitment. So looking internally, first of all, before going out to build your team, looking internally to make sure you have the structure set up within your business, that you have the training on board that you need to, so you're holding onto your team as much as you can. So that retention piece is key. I think employer branding is always still really, really important. But then also AI, with AI in terms of recruitment, it's coming up all the time. So if you have an internal HR recruitment team, is there anything that you can utilize around AI to free your team up to do other things? So they're kind of the 3 key trends that I'd be seeing at the moment.
Okay, very good. So maybe automating some things. And getting the team maybe involved in that, and then understanding the personality or brand and how that maybe speaks to those candidates that are maybe checking your brand out online. Maybe where is the first touch point for those people if they come across you online? What feel are they going to get for the brand?
And showing those people, showing potential employees that you're a people first business. Although you're a retailer, you appreciate them as a person, you offer flexibility, you're constantly changing and adapting in line with other industries that are out there. That retail isn't this static business where we expect people to fit into everything it is that we do as employers. Like any other businesses, we're adapting, we're agile, and we're changing with the times.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Denise. I think I'll probably have a summary of this underneath anyways. For anyone that's watching it on the live stream, which it'll be streamed the video across LinkedIn and all those amazing platforms. If you're listening on the audio, we will have some notes where we will have some key takeaways. I think it's about being flexible, having brand awareness of what those candidates see. If you are, doing interviews, what does that onboarding piece look like? What is the first touch point of that brand? So we talked about loads of great examples there from Woody's Rituals and loads of other brands that are doing it. and that are doing it so well that they have
Yeah,
great talent in their businesses
yeah,
as a direct result.
yeah.
So it's really been proven there, I suppose, across on those. And this has been a really fun talk, Denise. You're filled with so much knowledge that it could literally talk to you for hours on end. If
And
people
do you know
want,
what, Louise? It's a great industry. I
yes,
mean, in recruitment retail, it's a
yeah,
tough industry. You
yeah,
know, I talk to HR leaders within the industry every day, and we're constantly putting our heads together to discuss what else we can be doing to attract people into the retail
yeah,
community. But it's about, I think, as well, building a supportive community to know
yes,
people within the retail sector, both business owners and employers and employees,
mm,
that they're not alone, that there are supports out there as well. And you don't have to be doing everything yourself. You know,
yeah,
look externally, pick up the phone. I'm always delighted to have a chat. Pick up the phone if you need some industry insights, if you want to get an idea about what your competitors doing. Like with a lot of my clients that I would work with, I'm very lucky that we've built up a fantastic client base over the years. So I would talk to them about doing an audit on them as an employer. So
mm,
like what you're saying, as if I
yeah,
was going to get a job with them, all the
yeah,
different touch points, all their socials, you know, applying
mm,
for a job. And you can get anybody to do that. You know,
yeah,
get somebody to work through the process of employing for or you know, going for a job with you and
mm.
how that would look because it needs to be as slick as easy as possible to get that really good talent. If you can't do it, look externally, get somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And having maybe that outsider look at the business from a different perspective.
Yeah,
Maybe that you
100%.
didn't, yeah, that there's not a bias there, that they can maybe see with a different pair of lens,
Yeah.
which is a great one as well. If people want to reach out to you,
Yeah.
Denise, they're listening to this. They could be driving their car, they could be having a sandwich, they could be, coming off the shop floor, whatever it is they're doing. How do they reach out to you, Denise? What's the best way to get in contact?
Yeah. Do you know what? Depending whether you're on socials or not, we've a really strong presence on LinkedIn. I think I'm at my 30,000 limit now at this stage. So, you know, Teamworks are on LinkedIn. We've a
Yeah.
great website or that as well. So just Google Teamworks and you'll come across us on that or on Insta or whatever it needs to be. But yeah, I'm delighted to have a conversation with anybody, you know, to point them in the right direction if I can't help them directly, Louise. I sit on the board of the Employment and Recruitment Federation, so we're
Yeah.
all about standards. I'll always know specialists within the industry for
Mm.
recruitment, be it tech, be it IT, be it retail, whatever it is. So if I can't help, I love pointing people in the right direction of somebody who can.
Love it. Thank you, Denise. You're absolutely fantastic at what you do. Managing Director Denise Brady from Teamworks Recruitment, your recruitment partner. Thank you so much for coming on to the
Good
show.
to talk to you,
And
Louise. We could talk forever.
thank you so much, Denise. Have a fantastic day and check
We
out
chat soon.
Teamworks Recruitment. They're absolutely phenomenal to deal with and filled with knowledge. Thank you so much, Denise.
Louise, good to talk to you. Mind yourself. Take
Thanks.
care.